T-Sip and Daddy back at it again, my dudes. Supercross 25 track editor. Okay, so the gameplay you're seeing in this video right here, this is kind of interesting. Some of y'all old school Galaxy fans might remember this. This was the very first track that I ever made on the very first official Supercross game, and it was literally titled Motocross track. Some of you guys might remember me making a video on this about 6 or 9 years ago, okay? Literally, actually, kind of crazy how fast time's going right now. Slow the hell down, okay? But, yeah, so this is kind of cool going back to this track right here because I feel like it just kind of showed you the real possibilities of what you could do even in the very first track editor of the very first Supercross game. What I basically was able to create here was pretty much like a super motocross track before they were even doing super motocross, okay? T-Sipper predictor ahead of the times here, all right? That is exactly what this track feels like right here. So, but I want to talk about what this track editor and custom tracks will actually potentially be like in the new Supercross game that we have coming out in 2025. I think it's actually an aspect of the game that's super important. I think a lot of people may not necessarily understand how important it is. The reason why I think it's so important nowadays is because of how, you know, how used to the whole custom track scene all of us motocross fans, we've just gotten used to having custom tracks. We've gotten used to having a track editor with playing games like MX Simulator, MX Bikes, you know, all those kind of games, even Reflex on PC. It's as if the entire culture around motocross gaming over the last 10 years has been basically entirely defined by custom track content, community-made content, okay? So, it's a major element to it, bro. Shit's major, bro. And what sets the Milestone games apart, specifically their Supercross games, is the fact that it seems like they're really the only actual console-based motocross game that has a track editor like that, other than if you go back to something like Excite Bike 64 or some shit, you know, that had a little module-based track editor on it. Little fun fact, that was actually Spency Boy's first time using any kind of track editor, was back on that Excite Bike 64 shit, okay? That was basically like Milestone Supercross track editor, like 20 years before the first official Supercross game, okay? So, but it was module piece based, and it was very simplistic, very basic, but it was badass for the time, okay? What I feel like a big problem with Milestone's track editor has been the whole time is it kind of still feels like a very bare bones, simplistic sort of track editor, and yeah, I understand they're trying to get it where it'll work on console, so it can't be as extensive as like a PC-based track editor. I totally understand all that, okay? But that's me saying it's still bare bones, it's still basic, still doesn't have nowhere near enough stuff in it with all those things considered, all right? You see what I'm saying? Like, so this is what worries me a little bit about Supercross 25 is the fact that even in their early trailer and sort of what they have kind of posted about so far, they haven't really mentioned much about the track editor aspect of it. They haven't really said a whole lot like all new track editor, or we've made these big changes to the track editor. Spency Boy wadding his brains out, all right? So they haven't really said anything like that, okay? It's been more like It's the Unreal Engine 5. It's new ruts. You know, that would lead you to believe it's some sort of a new terrain deformation system, you know, new physics. They've kind of said all these other things, but I noticed, you know, conveniently, they didn't really mention much about the actual track editor or any sort of new, you know, track editor changes or anything of the sort. So I just don't know. That kind of worries me a little bit. It seems like we may just end up getting a better looking Supercross 666, you know, with a newer engine, different physics. You know, it might have a better terrain deformation system, but it's probably going to have a very similar track editor that we saw like in the Supercross 6 era. Okay, so here's the deal. Basically, they have, throughout the different Supercross games, they've added different things to their track editor. Why can I not hit that double? Bro, this track is sick right here. If you still have the original Supercross game on Steam, just look up just Motocross track made by me, okay? Spencer Turley, okay? You'll find it on there. This shit's actually legit, bro. This is like a legit SMX track on the original Supercross game. Actually got some skill gap to it. Actually got some places you can damn near crash on. Like, this shit's actually legit, bro. Spencer Boy used some of his MX Sim track making skills on this right here. Kind of like simulated the roughness a little bit. So, yeah, so over the years, the Supercross games, yeah, they've added some things to their track editor, but like, if we're just keeping it, you know, 100 T-Sip and real talk right here, that it hasn't been a lot. Like, they've added sand sections. They finally ended up adding a different dirt compound, like a clay compound, okay? They've added a few more module pieces, but not a lot. And one of the really weird, big, confusing things I never understood was they never added the Motocross module pieces once they finally added the track editor to their MXGP game, which took them like 420 years, okay? So, the thing about that is, I don't know why they wouldn't have done that. It's like they just limit the content in these milestone games for some odd reason. It makes no sense to me. I really don't understand why they do that. Look at that shit, bro. You like go outside and triple right there, kind of tricky. That shit is badass on this track, bro. I mean, this is seriously like one of the best moto style, national style, super motocross type tracks in the first Supercross game in the whole game, bro. Telling you. I remember whipping this thing up when this game first came out. It's like when I first got on the milestone track editor right here. I was like, can you make a motocross track on this shit? You kind of sort of can, but it ends up being more like a supermoto track, right? I wish they would add more motocross module pieces where you could throw in a random actual tabletop, actually have roughness module pieces instead of trying to have to use all these little workarounds like these little mogul module pieces to try to make it kind of like roughness, but it's not exactly like that, you know. They've always needed more of like a corner with a rut, kind of like a pre-made rut module piece. Even in your Supercross games, you shouldn't just have all of your corner module pieces where they're like always perfectly flat or smooth. You know, you should have some that are like three pre-made ruts in a corner, some, you know, bowl module corner pieces that have like one inside pre-made rut, or, you know, one rut going into another rut. Like, there is so much more they could have done with that. Different types of ruts, you know, you could have like 3 different sizes of ruts in all the different corner module pieces. It's like basically like another little thing that you would click on your controller instead of going to the sand, you know, module piece to change any module piece to sand. You could make any module piece in the game like a more, you know, deformed version of it in a sense, or like a more rutted version of any module piece in a sense. This is all stuff that seems as if it would be easy to do. You could still have it in the module piece thing. Bro, these moto game companies, why you boys don't hire me, I have no idea. Oh, wait, I know. I would be way too fucking truthful about your game. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. But here I am giving you more free advice, okay? This is what all the moto gamers want. They want to be able to go in there, even in a module-based track, editor, and be able to click a thing that is like on every module piece, they're able to adjust how ruddy the module piece is. So if it's like a whoop section module piece, you can select between it being perfectly smooth or having some ruts in it, like it's a little bit rough, or having crazy amounts of ruts going through the whoops, That's what everybody wants. Talk about actually make the track editor creative, make everybody's track feel different. You could have some tracks that were smoother, some tracks that had like smoother finish lines or smoother rhythms, but then the corners were rutted. You could have some tracks that were just completely roached out. The whole tracks were all fucked up and rutted up and shit, The fact you don't really have a physical terrain deformation system, milestone. That means you need to have pre-made, which means you need to give us the ability to make pre-made in your track editor. Okay, so same with like a whoop module piece, you could have, a straightaway module piece that you could select different levels of ruts on that. You could have like I'm saying, a rhythm section jump module piece, and you would be affecting the levels of how many ruts / how big the ruts are on the actual jumps themselves, down in the transitions, on the jump faces. So you could literally do it with any sort of module piece in the game. It wouldn't just have to be the corner module pieces. Do you understand what I'm saying? Boy, I made that double right there tough as shit, bro. It's a boy gonna need a little mud nos boost on that right there, bro. That double right there is sick too. Oh man. Bro, I made the jumps on my one custom track on the first official Supercross game is more hardcore and difficult and challenging than any other default Supercross track in the game, bro. Oh, man. But you see what I'm saying, though? Like, that just certainly seems like... I thought that's something we would have either seen in the very first track editor or at the very least, like, Supercross 2's track editor. The being able to actually adjust the pre-made rut level and roughness level on each individual module piece. Okay? The amount of mixing and matching you could do with that would just be insane. It would be amazing. Alright? Here's another thing. Different skyboxes, like different lighting effects. That's another thing that would change up the tracks quite a bit. That's what you're really looking for. I feel like nowadays with the track editor on the Supercross games, got to give us more ways to personalize the tracks. And I don't just mean with the DLC tough blocks, okay? I mean, you're going to have to really allow us to put a lot of different kind of dirt colors, a lot of different kind of, lighting effects. If you just had a couple of lighting effect sliders in there, that would do wonders with people really being able to make each individual track feel different, right? Different lighting effect sliders with the different, roughness pre-made rut module piece type deal going on with about another, 50 more module pieces, including the MXGP Motocross module pieces. Then you would start to have a legit, module-based track editor, console-based track editor. It wouldn't be so bare bones at that point. Do you understand what I'm saying? Just telling you, bro. So definitely let me know down in the comments what some other things you guys like to see to an actual console-based track editor, Try to keep it like in the realm of actually realistic for that, And I'd like to take a look at that. So either way, man, this is something that does concern me about Supercross 25 because they haven't really talked a lot about it or shown much on this particular aspect, but damn it, I feel like it's so important.